Hi, everybody. I'm Laura,
Now, I'm Allison.
and this is the Earp Top 5 podcast for
For
freedom.
freedom!
We hope you enjoy what we have to say. We don't know what it's going to sound like
No,
yet.
not yet.
It's the first one, so if you like it, then maybe we'll continue. If you don't, we'll continue anyway. We don't care what you think.
Very true. Yeah, what we were going to do for you guys wondering is just kind of take a look at our top 5 moments from every episode. And then, if our top 5 aren't the same, we're going to battle it out and find out which top 5 is the best.
Okay. Do you want to start? Hit me with
Sure.
your first one. Yeah.
So, okay, just for what we're doing, this is episode 405, Holy War Part 1. Here's one of my top 5, which could be everyone's top 5. The entire last scene of the episode. When Waverly runs in, and most importantly, Jeremy's line, that was like my top moment. Even if I had to just pick one, I would say that because it is so much a nod to the fans that like the writers understand what's going on. They have our back. We don't have to worry. And you don't get that a lot from writers. So like to have that line at the end, because it was such a crazy episode, and you're like, what the heck is
Yeah.
happening? And then you get this character who's not actually talking to the audience, but sort of just giving a nod, to tell
hmm
you that just trust us.
I
And
mean,
so that's what I did. I'm trusting.
yeah, you're right. And then how could you not trust those puppy dog peepers?
Yes, Jeremy's face. I mean, he was just like, and I think altogether that whole scene, just the slow mo of Waverly running in, her seeing what was happening, and then you could hear Jeremy in the background. Like you could hear the commotion of him
Yes.
actually drowning Nicole, saying like
Yes.
your instincts are kicking in, like your
Yes.
and then like you can see Waverly, and just from a film perspective, it was just shot so beautifully, and that whole moment was just like, I mean, it definitely ended the episode on a high note, I'd have to say.
Yes. I mean, the episode started on a high note with the wedding, and you want to talk about being filmed beautifully. That was one.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I couldn't keep it on my list because there
It's
were
on my list,
Oh, okay, good. Okay, fine. But
but
so
it made
do
tough.
you want to continue
So
on, or you
yeah,
want me to give you one of mine?
let's go back and forth. Give me one of yours.
Okay. So I'm gonna go a little bit before that scene, and I'm gonna go to Wynonna's rallying cry speech. Her hide your
Yeah,
kids, hide your wives, cause she dropped an f bomb in it,
she did.
and actually that whole scene where even when Nicole comes in with the knives and kind of the tussle between Doc and Wynonna
Mhm.
and I guess possessed Nicole or like just zoned out Nicole, and then Waverly coming in and it's like, why are you beating up Nicole? And then culminating, like I said, with that speech was probably one of my top moments. And I feel like even last week, her when she stormed into BBD at the end with that speech, that was one of my
Yeah.
top moments last week as well.
I love a good Wynonna speech, you
Oh yeah,
know?
yeah. Especially when she drops, like I said, when she drops an F
Yeah.
bomb. That's always good.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, and yeah, and then because there was just everything in that scene. There was like anger and
Mhm.
a little bit of humor when she's like, "You're gonna have to tie up your girlfriend." He's like, "Well, it wouldn't be the first time." And then but also like the severity of the situation. Like they know something's going down. They know what roles they need to play right
Right.
to get everything sorted.
And
So that
also that scene's also pretty important just because like if you look at Wynonna's journey,
yeah.
like she has a team now. So it's like you could just tell like, her rallying the team is such a huge step from where she was, 3 seasons ago.
That's actually so I'll explain it on my list, but you go ahead, you give me your
All
next
right. So the next one, I'm going to go for the dream sequence that opens the episode,
one.
which we find out is Nicole's, I'm going to say nightmare. Um,
Right, yeah.
and the reason this is one of my top 5 is because not only was it shot beautifully, Mel and Kat looked amazing. Like, you can't go wrong, right? I'm sure they were freezing, but they looked great. So it's like, can't go wrong there. You got Jeremy, Nedley, and Doc in these suits. Like, I mean, everyone just looks so great. But I think the reason it made my top 5 is because it really just shows Nicole's like true fear, you know? Like you
Hmm.
really get a glimpse. Like we've been wondering like what the heck happened to her in these 18 months and like we still don't know. I think that one of the biggest fears now that we know is her not or Waverly maybe not loving her after she
Hmm.
finds out. And so that whole dream sequence or the nightmare kind of lets in the viewer understanding this is what her fear is and this is like a big deal.
Yeah, it's the guilt eating away at her.
Mhm.
And yeah, talk about that scene. Like I said, the Nicole, I love Nicole's dress. Also, like that whole thing shot. I mean, you had everybody dressed in black, the white like snowy backdrop,
Oh
and
yeah.
then just the red flowers and the red lipstick, and also unfortunately the red blood from from Doc's eyes, like focusing on those three colors in that scene. I agree. Like I said, I had to cut it off my list because it was like there was too much, but I agree, like that
Good.
scene is probably one of the best scenes. My next thing is not so much a scene, but it's really what you had touched upon before, where it's like they're relying on each other now.
Mhm.
Wynonna has this team behind her. She's no longer going at things on her own.
Yeah.
Nicole, she didn't like hole herself away in like the barn or something like that. She saw that like she was suffering from something, and though she couldn't verbalize it yet, she did tell them that it's something terrible,
Right.
and it's
That's
it's
true.
something that I can't say, but I want to tell you all about it, but I just can't. Actually, in one of the post episode interviews that the cast did, they actually touched upon this, where they said that there's a trust between all of the characters now, and they can tell when something's not quite right with one of them,
Mhm.
and they, instead of like going to the worst conclusion, they try to help and kind of bring them. They don't try to isolate them out or anything like
Right.
that. They try to help them and things like that. So I feel like that was like a big what's the word I'm looking for? Like
It's
of
more
the
of like
episode,
yeah,
that
it's more
was
of
a
like a theme or like
yeah,
a
theme. Thank you.
characterization of sorts. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So that was a big that I
I
really liked in the episode, that like they have each other's backs more now, and especially like toward at the end when Nicole, like throughout the whole episode, she kind of had this cold shoulder towards Jeremy, and it was thawing a little bit, but then at the end he was the one that she called upon to help her.
which is a
Um,
great segue into another favorite top 5 moment of mine, which is the Nicole and Jeremy confrontation at the sheriff office or
oh
the
yeah,
newly renovated BBD office
correct.
because like for the first couple episodes we wondered like why wasn't Jeremy with Nicole all that time? Like why did she say that he had kind of gone AWOL? Like she was telling Waverly that she hadn't spoken to him and she didn't know where he was. And then when Wynonna gets to BBD, she sees that Jeremy has basically like changed his whole
Hmm.
persona to be this, agent. And so that confrontation where, he goes in and he hugs Waverly, and then he kind of like maybe
Yeah.
is about to hug Nicole, but she's like, "You kind of dropped off the face of the earth, didn't you?" And he's like, "Well, we all had a lot going on." And I think
Because
that's
she
a
stood her
really
ground too. Like
she
he
did.
kind of went in, and he saw that like she was not having it, so he kind of backed off. But yeah.
Which, originally I would say that I was on her side, because I would
Mhm.
say, why didn't he call? But then, like, he kind of does point out it was 18 months. We all had a lot going on.
Yeah.
He was trying to protect the town, probably keep Robin away to protect him, and maybe staying away from Nicole in the grand scheme of things protected her rather
Yeah.
than hurt her. Because we don't know what Jeremy really went through. So it's very possible.
Because he also said when she was like, "Would you have called me more often?" And he's like, "On my phone that was being tracked." And it's like there's like when he first came face to face with Wynonna, his body language, like she read off of his body language to maybe not say or play along,
Right.
in last week's episode. Whereas on the phone, that's being monitored, he can't necessarily say like, don't talk about like this mysterious garden, don't talk about them.
Yeah, Jeremy wouldn't be able to say that, but I think it was a nice look into both of their feelings. But like you said, it's such a testament to their friendship and their family because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
she still trusted him to be the one to do this, not anyone else. I mean, I'm sure she would have trusted Wynonna, to do it, but because Jeremy is smart, he's this like very intelligent scientist guy, like he has so much knowledge about weird spells and
Mhm.
exorcisms and all these things that like Jeremy was the one that she trusted. And I think that even at the end of the day, they fought for most of the episode, but she knew that she could count on Jeremy to do this. And I thought that was a really good moment of just kind of seeing all of their progress kind of as a team and as a family.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. My third one, it's playing off of yours, but it's Nedley. It's Nedley in this episode,
Hmm.
and he's another one where, she goes into Nicole goes into Shorty's and is just like, I know I tried to kill you, and he was very understanding about he's like, you know what, we all were going through shit, like I was a monster, I was a puffball monster, of course we,
Yeah.
so I feel like, but even when they first came in, when she was vomiting the frogs, um, the same thing. He's like, there's demons and this and that, and he's like, we got to find the cure and all this other stuff, and Waverly, she's like, oh, you did research, because a lot of this episode, I want to say, it wasn't scary, it wasn't funny. I mean, it was funny, but like, um, it was intense. I guess that would
Yeah,
be a
it
good word
was
for it, because
for sure.
it was just like, zigging and zagging all over the place. So like those couple of moments, just going back to Nedley and the whole purgatory softball league thing, it just kind of gave that like little, splash of levity
Hmm.
to the episode, because like from one moment Nicole's vomiting these frogs. Sorry for anybody who's listening that has an issue with that word or that itself.
Hmm.
And then right away they go, and it's just like that point of levity where you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So I think that was a great moment just to have, and dispersed smartly within the episode, because it
Yeah.
was it was about like maybe a quarter way through, and then like towards the end, so just it was spot on the two spots that Nedley showed up in.
Yeah, I do
So
love that Nedley at the end, one of
yeah.
my favorite lines was I think Nicole runs in Shorty's and she says, "I need liquor," and he says, "You look like you need medical attention."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that just made me laugh because like he's kind of always been a father figure,
Hmm.
and it was kind of said in a jokingly manner, but also I think he was maybe a little concerned. He was
Yeah.
kind of like, "What's going on?" And then as soon as she said, or Waverly and Jeremy explained it, he was like, "A hex," and they were like, "Yeah, that's exactly." Like he just
Yeah.
knew right away. He kind of caught on, and that again, going with our theme, it really just shows how well they've become a team. They understand each other now. They're not really they didn't even really have to explain a whole lot
Hmm.
to Nedley. He just kind of like went with it.
Yeah, at the end he was just like, what do you need?
Okay, so my number 4 is the lovely why not moment on the porch.
Hmm.
Biggest fan because I'm a sucker for a good best friend story.
Hmm.
I love them to death, and the fact that they have now clarified that they're best friends, so
Hmm.
it's written in stone. Um, I love that moment because first of all, just the comedy of it. Nicole pukes all over Wynonna's shoes, and you get this classic Wynonna. What have you
Yes.
been eating? Like this classic moment. But then, of course, like you don't see Wynonna learns from Waverly what was going on. She also doesn't question it. She's just like,
Right.
oh, okay, she's possessed or, whatever. And so she goes outside and they have this little banter. And of course, you see Wynonna being supportive of her and Waverly and it's like, what's taking you guys so long? And then Nicole finally voices her fear, which we also saw in the dream. It's just
Uh-huh.
that she's afraid that Waverly won't want to marry her after she finds out. what she did. And of course, Wynonna starts trying to ask, did you do something to get us out of the garden? And then wait, Nicole can't voice it because she starts to,
Yeah,
you know,
gag.
puke up some more frogs. And so, Wynonna's like, nope, I didn't ask, don't even tell me. But I just love that moment. It's like such a huge progression from where they were, in early seasons. And, the
Yeah.
whole season so far has been like one of my favorite transformations. It's just their relationship as friends. Because you get to see, now we're seeing like a whole different side. Because I think like in early
Mhm.
episodes, even in season 2, when she asks Nicole to be the one to take her
Mhm.
baby, like that was a big moment. But I
Yeah.
think even then, like she trusted Nicole, but even then, they still had this weird dynamic going on.
Mhm.
But now I think that there's such a clear understanding of the main goal, to protect each other, especially Waverly, and I think that, that porch chat was just like a small little moment that kind of just solidifies um, that they're best friends and they're
Yeah.
always going to be best friends.
I had that on my list, but because I had so many on my list, I'm gonna move on to something else. But I did have a question on that for you.
Okay.
Do you feel, because my next thing is kind of along those lines. It's the when and I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up because I tweeted about it, and it seems to be a popular tweet of mine. But when Nicole puts the lock on the door and Wynonna just breaks on through.
Yeah,
But
the look
but
on Nicole's face in that
yeah,
moment.
the look on Nicole's face is very reminiscent of when they were in the barn after another vomiting incident, when Waverly expels Miction from her body, and Wynonna picks her up and is just like, um she's like, yeah, you said some pretty harsh things, and she's like, yeah, don't believe all of it, and Nicole is just left standing there with like, what do you
Like, what
mean
do you mean
don't
all of
yeah,
it?
what do you mean not all of it? So Nicole standing by the door once Wynonna barges in is very reminiscent of that, number one. But here's my question to you. Do you feel like there's a different dynamic to them and to their best friendship, air quotes, not air quoting their best friendness,
It's
but
real.
no, that is real. Yes, I'm not air quoting that. What I'm about to say, I'm kind of air quoting, is that when they're alone, like the conversation on the porch, as opposed to when they're in the group. Do
Hmm.
you know what I mean?
I
I
do.
feel I feel like when they're in the group, maybe it's like a Wynonna thing where like she can't be so
Vulnerable.
for lack of a better term, like lovey-dovey with
Hmm.
Nicole. Like she has to have that like she has a rep to uphold, you
Yeah,
know, with Nicole around other people,
for sure.
where she like is not going to think Nicole is as cool when they're around other people, or she's not going to, you know what I mean?
I definitely see that.
So I feel like when they're together, just the two of them, there is that kind of like, you're my best friend, ride or die kind of thing. But when they're around other people, like I said, Wynonna has like this attitude towards Nicole because it's like, I can't show people I'm soft.
I think
Like,
so.
yeah. So, like I said, so that's my next favorite moment was when she just barged in. And I feel like, I mean, that says a lot about Nicole as well, because what my tweet said, if you haven't seen it, was that no wonder why Wayha get interrupted so much. Nicole can't install a lock properly.
Such a good moment. Like, because like Nicole doesn't even say anything. She just like gives
Uh,
her the look and then goes back to installing the lock. Like she just knows.
yeah, it's like it's just one of those like I don't know if she's more upset by the fact that Wynonna barged in or the fact that the lock broke.
Right.
I'm really
It's hard
not
to
sure
tell.
about that.
It is a good moment. I love that. It's kind of like I love that you get these nice little like you got the porch chat, such a very close and loving moment between them, but then you
Hmm.
get this moment of Wynonna barging in, and you kind of see that again, like you said, in the group. Maybe she's just a little more tough. Maybe she just likes to treat Nicole tough because she doesn't want her to everybody else to see her soft side, or But it's a good moment. Number 5 for me, and again, I had a lot, and so there was probably very large list of honorable mentions, but I
Yeah.
have to go with Rosita's return
Okay, can I just
because
pause you right there? I'm sorry. I'm gonna pause you. I'm gonna say she was on my list too. I'm just gonna say
okay,
that. But because she just made an appearance and next week she's probably gonna have like the meat of her storyline, I was like, I'm gonna reserve it for next week. So you can be sure
okay, okay.
she's gonna be on my list next week.
All right, well, I'll
Sorry.
take it this week
Yeah. Sure,
because
sure,
I have been hoping and wishing and like coming up with my own scenarios on how she could return.
sure. Mhm.
And like even back when she left the show, when she almost ran off with baby Alice, I
Mhm.
remember there was a moment I was watching the episodes with some of my coworkers because of course I had forced them all to watch it during our lunch breaks because I
Mhm.
talked about it so much. They were like, "Look, let's just watch it." And my coworker had so many theories about Rosita, and we went on for hours. And I was like, "But no, she's gonna come back," and like had full list of ways she could come back. So to see Tamara, and here's the thing, I don't know if it's Rosita.
Correct. Correct. We don't know.
It could be a version of Rosita. Look, we've seen a lot of characters play other people. I mean,
Mhm.
Nicole was Eve, Eve was Nicole. Like, it's hard to tell who anyone is these days. But just that potentially Rosita is back. And I found it very interesting that the nunnery, or whatever we're calling
Mhm.
that place, had deemed her the woman scorned, which
Mhm.
is quite fitting for what happened to Rosita. Because if you'll remember, she was
Yep.
only shot because she was in the wrong place at the right wrong
Yep.
time. So she was never intended to be killed with all the other revenants. And she's also probably really scorned by Winona and Doc. It's not just Wyatt. She's got this list of things that she's got against people. And I've always been a fan of Rosita. I think
Yeah.
that what she did was only because she was defending
Yeah.
herself. Winona threatened her.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that she was a revenant, and I know that that was Winona's purpose to kill the revenants. And so, I see Winona's side. To end the curse for my family, I have to kill you. I get that. But Rosita never did anything wrong. Like at that
Mhm.
point, she was helping them. She was part of the team.
Yeah.
And so it really just kind of rubbed me the wrong way when Winona, after she knew Rosita was on their side, had threatened her like that, even though you understand that that's what Winona has to do. But like, I feel like there could have been a better way for her to voice that.
Yeah.
So, to see Rosita come back, or potentially Rosita as the woman scorned, so we're not sure what that means. I think it's got a lot of potential. Is it Rosita or is it not?
Yeah. My last one, my fifth one is of course the way hot moment of the episode, which was at the end when Waverly is caring for Nicole by the fire. Um, and they have that sweet moment. Waverly is laying everything out there.
Yeah.
And like everybody knows, it's always been like Nicole's been the strong one. I mean, we saw a little bit of her and they even talked about this when Dolls died and they were in his hotel room, and it
Yeah.
was like Nicole had kind of her first breakdown, and
Hmm.
Waverly was like, it's good that I can be here for you this time. But this time around it's a little bit more, it's a little bit more. There's more there. You have this woman that waited for you and kept everything safe for you for a year and a half. And so it was a sweet moment. Like all of their moments so far this season have been
Hmm.
um just them being together, and they tried to talk about the engagement. And I found it interesting that Waverly said, or actually Nicole brought it up. She's like, "Yeah, I guess we should talk about the engagement."
Yeah.
And obviously, Nicole can't say the words yet. But when she was outside, she was able to speak freely about it to Winona in that scene that you mentioned, where
Hmm.
she was just like, no, what did she say? Like, no Egyptian curse or something like that will stop me from marrying your sister.
Hmm.
And I just think maybe something along those lines to Waverly, just to say, but I don't I really feel that Nicole She really wants to get the truth out to Waverly before she gives her the answer, even though it's like killing me that she's not giving
Yeah.
her an answer.
No, I totally
Um,
get that because it makes you feel like if she could say it to Wynonna, and Wynonna was like, It's not gonna matter." Like
mhm.
you almost want her to say the same to Waverly so that you can hear Waverly say it's not gonna matter too, because I feel like with
Yeah.
the guilt that Nicole is experiencing, hearing that from Waverly would maybe take away a little bit of the guilt she's
Yeah.
feeling.
In not so many words, I think Waverly was saying that because she said to Nicole, she's like, when Nicole was about to throw up again, she's like, I know you did something terrible, but
Right.
really, it's you. How terrible could it be?
Exactly. But I think that's a really important piece to understand because I think
Yeah.
that what I know or what Nicole feels about this, because you'll remember when she's in the sheriff's office and you get that flashback to her and Margot or
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am, and then you go back to her and she goes, "No, I couldn't have promised that." Like we don't
Yeah.
know yet what she promised, but even she's like, "No way that I promised that." So you're wondering like, "Oh gosh, like what did she actually promise?" And so
Yeah.
like whatever Waverly thinks like, "Oh, it's you, how terrible can it be?" is probably not the same scale that Nicole feels
Right.
is terrible on. So you know what I mean? Like maybe Waverly's like, "It doesn't matter. You could burn down the homestead with me in it. I would still love you."
Yeah.
But Nicole's thinking maybe it's a bit worse. And so there's still that big level of guilt that she doesn't know. Even if Waverly's like fully on board, has told her that, she just can't feel like, that Waverly's gonna be okay with it.
So, okay, give me one kind of like honorable mention for this week for you that
All right.
that's kind of couldn't
Um,
make the list.
my honorable mention would be Wynonna going into the nunnery and calling after Peacemaker like a dog. She was like, "Come here, girl. Come."
I actually had that on my list too, but I got a different honorable mention. I have Wynonna in the when she goes into the museum with the mean girls and she
Yes.
and
See
then
you
she
later,
walks.
Regina. What did she say, Regina Board?
Yeah, something like that. But my favorite was when she walked by them. She's like, she doesn't even go here. Yeah, that just had me laughing a lot.
Yeah.
You can't just take stuff and like watch us. Thanks a lot, leader of tomorrow.
Yeah. That whole museum moment was great.
So that's our top five. Well, that's Allison's top five and my top five. So
Yeah.
should we debate what should be like the final top
Okay.
five for freedom?
Freedom. I think this makes it a bit easy because we all, like we said a bunch that had to do with the teamwork. So like
Yes,
we could just take out the why not scene, the Jeremy Nicole, the Nedley thing, and just kind of rope it into this whole idea of teamwork
yes, Team Earp.
because everything, yeah, Team Earth, because all of those all went back to the fact that like they've progressed so much and we loved seeing them work together. And so I think that that's an easy one. Like we can agree that that was a top moment of
Yes,
the episode.
yes,
Um, I think that I'll have to argue that Jeremy's line at the end, "I'm asking you to trust us," has to be a top moment because, like, I think that line has so much more meaning than even just for this show, like,
yes,
it just means so much. So I think that that's really important. And because of the history with the writers on this show, we don't have to feel nervous. Like they didn't even have to put that line in there, and people
yeah,
would have been like, "Oh yeah, it's totally fine." But I think that line was just like a nod to the fans, as well as Jeremy trying but probably failing at, reassuring Waverly.
I don't think so. I think we'll come in next week and she'll be like, okay, and like just take a deep breath. They all kind of give the benefit of the doubt now.
They know each other's hearts and their characters at this point. Like,
Yes.
like Nicole burned the homestead.
Yeah.
And
And
Winona was like, "We're gonna go get them for what they made you do to you and to us. We're gonna go get them." Like they
yes.
weren't mad that she almost burned them alive. Like they
Right.
knew that Nicole would never actually do that.
Right.
Like that wasn't actually Nicole. They knew that. And I think that you're probably right that Waverly knows like Jeremy's not doing this for any bad reason. Like this is
Yeah.
like purely for the, sake of the family. Like they have to get Nicole better because if they can't, then she can't tell them what she did,
Right.
and then you just don't have answers.
I'm gonna want to put the way hot, just them
Mhm.
two,
Yep, I
on
like
on the
that.
list. Just for the sheer, we're getting a way hot moment every episode.
Yeah.
And it's got to be.
Yeah.
And it was the first time like they're opening up to each other. And at first, like the first few episodes, we were like, well, can Nicole not? Is she just like too in her head, still too scared about what's going to happen around them? Like, but we see this episode that I think she was like under some kind of spell because she couldn't remember what she did, because she even said
Exactly.
that. So that's why maybe she was freezing up. But now
Mhm.
that she remembers, like she's willing to, for
Yeah.
lack of a better term, spill her guts about it.
Yeah.
And so there's that.
Yeah.
Um,
I
all
agree.
right. What else? We got two more spots here. What do you want to go with?
See, I roped so many of mine together that I don't.
Yeah, that's
I
what
would
I.
say the dream sequence is probably a good one.
Yeah,
Um,
the wedding dream sequence. Yeah,
you get a look into Nicole's head, really.
yeah.
Um,
I would even elongate that, and just to like Nicole, getting up, fireman carrying Waverly out, saving her. I would elongate that whole thing,
yeah.
to just include that, because you just wake up from a nightmare where, like, you basically were told in the nightmare that you're not this hero, or you're not, for lack of a better term, you're not this hero that you either make yourself out to be or
Hmm.
whatever. And then here she is acting heroic, saving Waverly and bringing her out. So yeah, I get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards the lock scene, only because, like, the Wynonna speech, that was a team up moment, and
Yeah.
that's kind of on our list already. So
Yeah.
unless you want to bump it for the Rosita, which is totally understandable,
No, I
but
think we can keep Rosita on the mind for the next episode because I think you're right. There's going to be a bigger story there, so we're going to be
yeah,
able to have that as a big moment. I
yeah,
think in the top 5 for next episode. But I think I
yeah.
would agree. I would go with the lock moment
Okay.
because again, just so funny and like
It has a little bit of throwback too,
yeah.
because even like, and again, just to elongate that whole scene, you have like the Jeremy going to hug Doc because they haven't
Mhm.
seen each other yet, and like, I'm so glad to be home and in your arms, he says. So yeah, I think, and so that's our list, I guess. So
Yeah,
we
that's
have,
our top 5.
yeah.
I think if you guys who are listening have your own top 5, let us know. Again, Laura had 18 items on her list
There
that
was
she had to cut down. So,
Yeah, like the couch scene with another maybe honorable
oh,
mention.
that we need to mention because what happened to the other couch? Why couldn't they just get that
Well,
one
it's
back?
been 18 months that they weren't in the office.
So, do you think
So,
Holt and Cleo got rid of it?
oh, probably, yeah.
Yeah,
I think, yeah, they probably like took everything, because it wasn't Nicole's office, but it wasn't in Nedley's office either. So
right.
I mean, they definitely got rid of that couch, or it could be in that shipping container that's on the homestead that everybody's curious as to what's in it. Um,
Still don't know.
or it could be just in storage, like downstairs at the sheriff department, the municipal building, or whatever.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
So, everybody, thanks for listening. If you stuck with us, like
mhm,
Allison mentioned, if you have a few of your own, please, send them our way. I'm at Laura Meet World on Twitter.
mhm.
Um, and Allison
Yep,
is,
I'm at No No Way Hot, so you can find us there.
yeah, and just let us know if this is something that you want to hear us babble about for at least episode 6, which is next week. And maybe we'll even do a rewind and go back to episodes 1 through 4, and then we'll be back when the show returns for the back 6 episodes, which will hopefully not be too long of a wait for us.
Right. We're
Uh,
hoping. Yeah.
yeah,
Fingers crossed on that one.
fingers, legs, toes, everything crossed for
Yeah.
that one. All right, thanks so much, everybody. Have a good day, night, whatever, for freedom.
For freedom.